Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Your Mark on the World show. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe. We're producing this episode for GoodCrowd.info, and we're excited to have as our guest today Andreas Karela, who is the executive director and founder of RE-volv, an organization that is using crowdfunding to put solar on community places. So, Andreas, thank you for joining us today. We're excited to hear about the great work that you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me, Devin. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Well, you are really combining three of my favorite things. So it's like one giant happy sandwich. But you're combining crowdfunding and solar power and community building all in one initiative. And it's hard for me to think of something that would put together three more exciting things to me. But tell us about what you're doing. Give us the mission and operational strategy for RE-volv to give us a foundation for our discussion.
That sounds great. Thanks so much, Devin, for the kind words. And I agree. Our mission really is about giving people who care about clean energy, who want to see more clean energy in their community, the ability to take a simple action and have an impact. So through crowdfunding, anybody can contribute a few dollars and ask a few friends to do the same. And by doing so, we can really make tangible projects in our community come to reality. So that's really the first part of our mission, is giving people that sense of empowerment. The second is through our finance model. So we actually have developed a innovative finance model using a revolving fund, which we call the Solar Seed Fund. So what happens is that once we've crowdfunded a solar energy project through tax-deductible donations, we invest that money in a solar project for a community center. And those community centers are either nonprofit organizations or worker-owned cooperatives that serve their community. And the community centers save 15% or more on their electricity bill as they pay us back over 20 years through a solar lease agreement. And RE-volv uses the solar lease payments that come to us each month to pay for future solar projects for other community centers. So it's a revolving fund that pays for more and more solar for more and more communities, building momentum over time. And of course, the last piece of our mission is really the education piece in the community. Solar energy is something that people really love, and yet they don't know that much about it. And so by us working in the community and holding events and raising awareness through our campaigns, we're getting more people excited about solar and learning how to go solar themselves.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you've done 3 projects so far, is that right, Andreas?
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah, our first 3 projects have been here in the Bay Area. We did a 10 kilowatt installation for the Shaw Anderson Dance Center in Berkeley, and we've done a 22 kilowatt installation for the Kahila Community Synagogue in Oakland, and we just recently finished a 32 kilowatt installation for the Other Avenues Food Cooperative in San Francisco.
Okay, so for morons like me, give us a sense of what 32 kilowatts means. Put that in, help make that meaningful for us.
Sure, yeah, that's, well, it's a grocery store, so it's got a lot of refrigerators and freezers and uses a lot of power, and it's going to cover about a third of their electricity. Essentially, 32 kilowatts would essentially cover, let's say, about 5 people's homes. So the average, sort of home, it would cover about 5 people's homes. That project alone is going to reduce carbon by about 100 pounds. It's going to produce 100. It's going to reduce carbon by the amount of, if you were to plant 100 acres of trees.
Okay.
So that's generally where that is.
That's great. That's a really good benchmark and measure. So operationally, the way this works is you crowdfund for the cost of the installation. So who benefits from that? Is your client where the product is being installed? What are they paying?
So typically, our solar leasing model is similar to a lot of solar leasing organizations in the industry. And the way that model works is, and this is for a lot of residential customers and also big commercial customers, can access solar financing in this way. Essentially, through a solar lease, you can essentially pay nothing up front. You go solar for 0 down, and you just start paying a monthly fee. Now that monthly fee is essentially replacing what you used to pay for electricity, except it happens to be 15% less than what you used to pay. So essentially for anybody who wants to go solar, they can do it, pay nothing up front, and start saving money on their electric bill right away.
Yeah. So what do you use the crowdfunded money for?
So the crowdfunded money goes to pay the solar installer for the installation. So we've been partnering with a nonprofit solar installer here in the Bay Area called Sunwork Renewable Energy Projects, and they have a great model. They bring volunteers to the job and they train them in how to get on the roof and install solar so that they can sort of pursue careers in solar installations if they so choose. And essentially, we pay the upfront costs to Sunwork. And then the community center pays us back over time for our investment in the project.
And then those reinvested dollars can go into your general fund. And so you were saying that after you've done 200 under this model, you should be self-sustaining. Do I understand correctly?
That's correct. Once we've had, I mean, even at this point, the revolving fund is already revolving. So, you know, thousands of dollars from the first 3 projects will be continually going into the future projects. But the 200 project mark is where we sort of would like to get to as soon as possible. When we have 200 projects installed, the revolving fund will generate enough revenue to build a new solar project every month without us needing to crowdfund another dollar.
Oh, that's great. Of course, by that time, there'll be a lot of demand for your services, and you'll need to do more than one a month.
That's correct. That's correct. And we're hoping that happens as soon as possible.
Yeah. So how did you get started in this? What brought this about?
Sure. So, well, I've been working in renewable energy. Really, I guess I got excited about renewables. I did my first sort of solar energy research when I was a senior in college in 2005. When I finished, I got an internship at a renewable energy nonprofit in DC. And essentially that started me on the path. Really, this comes out of a sense of looking at the question of climate change and realizing that we need to power our society with clean energy. Solar energy seems to be the technology best suited to scale up to meet that demand in the short time frame that we have. And it also has so many other benefits, right? So solar also, you know, provides economic benefits for the local communities where it is installed. It's saving money for people who are using it. It's creating local jobs that can't be outsourced, and so many, and essentially also providing self-reliance and resilience to an aging electrical grid. So really, solar is a solution not only for climate change, but also for so many of the community and economic troubles that we face right now. So to me, once I sort of got interested in solar, I've just kind of been focused on it ever since. In terms of the revolve model, I'd been working in renewables and the environmental movement for about 7 years or so at that point, and essentially felt this sense of disempowerment. What could we really do to help drive progress for clean energy? Well, many of us were involved in political organizing and trying to push for the policy changes that we need, both at the federal level and at the international level. And what we saw was that process was really stalling, and it wasn't providing the solutions that we needed. And it felt very disempowering to say, what can I actually do to make a difference here? And so the idea behind crowdfunding really essentially lends itself to giving people that sense of agency. I can take a simple action and have a powerful impact that's not only serving one solar project in this case, but it's actually being paid forward to serve multiple projects over time.
Yeah, that's great. Now, when you do a crowdfunding campaign, are most of the donors tied to the project you're doing? I.e., I'm thinking about maybe the synagogue or the community asset that you're fundraising for?
Actually, no, Devin. That's actually one of the really most exciting parts about our work is that so far we've done, as I mentioned, the 3 projects here in the Bay Area, and yet the campaigns that we ran on Indiegogo to raise that money raised over $120,000 from nearly 1,000 people. And here's the kicker, is those people came from 38 states in the country and 22 countries around the world. So to me, that really shows us that people are supportive of this concept of a revolving fund for solar energy that serves the community, and they don't necessarily have to be tied to that community or even that geographical location.
That really is inspiring to think about that kind of generosity. What kind of rewards were you offering people? Were you selling solar panels cheap? What were you doing?
As part of the Indiegogo campaigns, perks is typically something that campaign leaders will offer. So we had some simple perks. A lot of them were just, an email thank you, or a photograph of the solar installation. But some of the higher level donations received, a copy of a book, and different, we had different books around solar and climate change. We even offered, some sort of event oriented gifts. But actually, we've come to find out through our surveys after the campaigns that actually most of the people give not because of the perks, that they're not really interested in the perks. They're really giving because they want to take action on clean energy and support the community.
That's really cool. That's really cool and very inspiring. So I want to just talk for a few minutes about you personally, Andreas.
Sure.
You are really accomplishing some great things. And as you do that, you become a role model. People start to look up to you and they say, I want to do more. I want to be more like Andreas. Who are you looking to as a role model?
Thanks, Devin. I, over the years, have taken a lot of inspiration, as so many have, from Dr. Martin Luther King. To me, Dr. King was somebody who was completely dedicated to the cause, completely selfless, working out of a sense of love and compassion for everybody, and really just a very goal-oriented, very audacious in his the challenge that was before him, and essentially realizing that even though there was so much opposition to what he was doing, and even people that were sympathetic to the cause said, well, now is not the time and you really should wait. He acted in a way that was bold and said, no, we're not going to wait. Now is the time. We're going to make this happen. And really was sort of reaching upon his sort of sense of conviction to really drive that. And by doing so, he inspired, an entire nation. And also his pursuit of it, which was radical at the time, of using nonviolence and using essentially a way of reaching people where they were, and saying, hey, we sort of essentially, let's look at this from a sense of compassion. And he wasn't, he essentially just coming at it from a sense of love and trying to reach somebody where they were. So that to me, I really gain a lot of inspiration from him and his sort of selfless dedication to the cause. Somebody else that I also really admire now, contemporary, would be Elon Musk. I think Elon Musk, particularly his involvement in solar with Solar City and Tesla with electric cars, and also the batteries that they're producing. Not to mention SpaceX and PayPal and everything else that he's done. He's, again, just someone that's so tireless and so dedicated to solving these huge questions, and again, so audacious in his goals, and not at all listening to conventional wisdom that would tell him that what he's trying to do is impossible. So those are two people that I reach out to for inspiration.
Yeah, that's a great examples. I wonder if you have an opinion about, there's this great and brewing controversy as more and more electric utilities, seem to be getting nervous about solar power, and they are in the perception of the solar fans like you and me. They're punishing the solar people by imposing fees to access the grid.
Yes.
And it's intriguing to me about that dynamic as the Tesla Powerwall comes into the marketplace, I guess next year. That may shift that game quite a bit because people for the first time will be able to really safely go completely off the grid in many cases. How do you assess that situation?
Yeah, I mean, Devin, this is the the $1 million question that everybody in the solar industry and the utilities and everyone else is asking right now. And I think the way that I see it is that we are entering into, even without legislation for climate change, for example, we are entering into a radically transformative period of our energy system. So the way that we use cars, the way that we power our homes and businesses, and the way that the utilities operate is all going through a radical transformation. Partly, essentially, because we're shifting to a technology-based energy infrastructure that has so much room for innovation. So as the cost of solar panels continue to come down, as the smart grid allows for homes and then the utilities to be able to communicate to each other over the electrical grid, as electrical cars and their batteries start to play into that as well. We're looking at technological elements that have never been a part of our grid before. So it really does require a whole new rethinking of our energy infrastructure. And the way I see that the issue you mentioned about the utilities is that right now, many of the utilities are fighting what's known as the utility death spiral. They're afraid that they're going to lose more and more customers to solar energy providers, which is true, and that's happening. And so the question then is, well, okay, we're not going to. You really can't stop that, right? The cost of solar will continue to come down, and more people will go solar. That's a given. So the question is, what role does the utilities play in the new energy infrastructure? And the way that I see it is that someone will still need to maintain the grid, maintain the poles and the wires so that people can go solar. Yes, they'll have their battery packs at home, which they'll be able to use, but they'll also be selling power back to the grid. And you do need an entity to manage all of that, manage that communication and make sure that the grid is still safe and reliable and up and running. And I imagine that the utilities will hopefully continue to shift more into that sort of managing the grid role as opposed to being the ones selling the power, at least for many of the homes and businesses that are going solar. So that's how I see it. Again, there's a lot of different sort of variables that are still in play, and we'll see how that all pans out. But there's certainly massive amounts of innovation happening right now, and we'll see kind of how it goes.
All righty. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. Before you go, Andreas, tell us how people can learn more about what you're doing and connect with you.
Sure. So definitely go check out our website, www.revolv.org. That's spelled a little bit uniquely. It's RE-volv.org. And then also you can email me if you have any questions or want to get in touch at andreas@revolv.org. Again, RE-volv.org. And Andreas is ANDREAS.
Fantastic. Andreas, thank you very much for being with us. We wish you every success in the great work you're doing.
Thank you so much, Devin. Yep. Have a great day. Appreciate you having us.
Let's do some good.